Hey runners, just another running coach here. And after 2 wild, stressful years, we are finally just days away from the comeback of the New York City Marathon. It's been so long since I felt this excited, and even though it's going to be a little different than usual with COVID precautions, you know what they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And I have a feeling this year is going to feel even more special than usual, maybe even the most special, since it's not just the first in 2 years, but it's also the long-awaited 50th running of the race. This will be my 8th time running it, and as crazy as it may sound, I look forward to it every year the same way kids look forward to their birthday. I could go on and on about every little detail I love, like chatting with fellow runners in the start area, to high-fiving kids in Brooklyn, the roar of the crowds on First Avenue, seeing my family just before entering Central Park, even the victory lap of agony after crossing the finish line. But instead of just rambling on and on, I've decided to organize my thoughts by creating a list of my top 8 tips for getting the most fun out of your New York City Marathon experience. I'm doing 8 to celebrate my 8th marathon, and pretty much all of these should apply whether you're just running it for fun or going for a self-competitive time goal. And even if you aren't running New York this year, hopefully these are still great tips for having a memorable race day in general, wherever you are. Now, before we dive into things, I have some really exciting news to share, and I'm gonna put one of those big disclaimers on screen because this is of a promotional nature. Over the summer, I was hired to be one of several coaches for a new online running community called RunnerClick Pro, which is basically like a really well-designed Facebook group without all the toxic baggage of your average social media platforms. No targeted ads or algorithms, no political debates, no corporate overlords, basically no nonsense. What runners do get is direct access to lots of knowledgeable coaches from all disciplines of the sport, like dietitians, physical therapists, sports psychologists, whatever I am, all of whom are active and super passionate members of the community. You can start discussions and have your training questions answered anytime you want. You get access to a growing video library where I and other coaches regularly publish videos just like this. Weekly coaching office hours where you can connect with a coach face-to-face. And an awesome supportive community of runners to share your highs and lows with in general. There are even more perks, but without making this a full-on advertisement for RunnerClick Pro, it's perfect if you want to take your running to the next level without having to splurge on one-on-one coaching, or if you really love having an online running community, but wish you could detox from other forms of social media, or you just really love watching my videos and want to see me ramble on about running a lot more often. Either way, I'm going to drop a link in the video description so you can learn more about it. And since you're here, and you're awesome for watching my videos, you can use the discount code EVAN to get your first month for only $1. Full disclosure, I was not paid to say anything I just said, but let it be known, I do get a commission for every sign up using my code. By the way, if you are interested in hiring me as your personal coach, I do have openings, and starting today, I will be offering a 15% discount off any of my coaching plans for all RunnerClick Pro members. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. Tip number 1, brace for a cold morning in Staten Island. Bringing extra throwaway layers and being prepared for the coldest possible morning is going to allow you to fully enjoy the experience of the start village. You're gonna be exposed to the elements for a pretty long period of time, and you do not want to be spending this special morning feeling miserable, shivering, or hiding in a porta potty for warmth. Not saying I've ever had to do that, of course, but if you don't already have extra layers, you plan on leaving in the donation bins at the start, I highly recommend stopping by a Goodwill or a discount store, and I would leave no stone unturned. Have an oversized sweatshirt, sweatpants, a hat, a scarf, gloves, an extra pair of socks if it's raining or if the ground is wet, and make sure those things are your outermost layers so you can easily take them off at the very last minute. Bonus tip with the pants, try to get your hands on a pair of sweatpants that are stretchy around the ankles. This way you don't have to untie or take off your shoes, which is really hard to do once they collapse the corrals and you're shoulder to shoulder with people. This may seem like overkill, but trust me, Even if you're a fast runner in wave 1, you do not want to be losing any precious energy shivering and moving around just to stay warm. Tip number 2, now that you're nice and toasty and can actually enjoy the start village, meet up with friends or make new friends while you wait. As I mentioned before, there will be plenty of time and a lot of great opportunities to socialize with other runners, even before you get to the start village, on the bus or the ferry, in your starting corral, even waiting in line for the bathroom. And yes, there will be plenty of time for friendly conversation on those lines. There's definitely a special feeling in the air before any marathon, and it's even more special when you get to share that experience with others. Not to mention, it does make the time pass much faster. Remember, even though this particular year is going to be a lot less international than others, this is a really cool way to make new friends and connections with people from all walks of life, all professions, and in any normal year, all corners of the earth. What I've found is that meaningful interactions with other people make the memories last a lot longer and a lot more fun to look back on. Tip number 3, leave the headphones at home. And for that matter, leave your phone behind, or during any normal year, leave the phone in your bag check bag. I know, but listen, today is a day you want to see and experience with all of your senses. Between the crowds, the music along the course, and the amazing energy of the event itself, you are simply not getting your money's worth if you're listening to the same music you've heard ad nauseum in your training, or looking at a phone screen for even a moment, in my opinion. We spend so much time as a society on our phones, and one of the best things about a major road marathon is being able to feel connected to the runners and the people around us. There will be plenty of photographers along the course to capture the big moments, and family and friends can make great photographers as well. Bonus tip here, if your name isn't already on your race day shirt, get a big piece of tape and write your name in Sharpie. It will be so much more encouraging to hear your name being chanted like one of the pros than listening to your music, I promise you. Tip number 4, sticking with my anti-technology theme like the crotchety old grandpa that I am, I wouldn't rely too heavily on GPS accuracy here. From the start, even the best GPS watches will probably have trouble keeping perfect accuracy because of all the tall buildings, the bridges, the potential interference from all the other GPS devices around you. Especially if you're going for a time goal, it's really important not to get too frustrated or stressed out by the inaccuracies that you do notice, because not only will it take away from your enjoyment of the occasion, but it'll also put you in a negative frame of mind, which is never great for running PRs. If your real-time pace seems to jump around erratically, I recommend paying more attention to your lap pace, aka your average pace for your current mile, since that metric is the average of many data points rather than whatever pace your watch thinks you're running at any one moment in time. So if you can customize the fields on your watch, see if you can do that to have your lap pace, your real-time pace, and your overall time and distance on the same screen. Tip number 5, ooh, here we go. Respect the bridges, especially the Verrazano and the Queensboro, and especially on the downhills. I would say one of the biggest, toughest lessons I've learned from having done this race many times is that the uphills are tiring in the moment, but it's the downhills that will make you pay by the end. Conventional wisdom tells us we can make up for lost time on the downhills. But the thing about the New York City Marathon is that most of the hills come in the form of bridges, and these are long, long hills we're talking about. The mile going down the Verrazano, which is mile 2 by the way, is really tempting because it's basically all downhill. And it's at the beginning of the race, it's exciting, we have energy. Most people will go out way too fast, and it's really tempting to run with the pack. People often call this putting time in the bank, but it's really more like borrowing money from a loan shark. You will be owing back that time with interest by the end. Same thing goes for the Queensboro mile 16, especially because your stabilizing muscles will be feeling pretty fatigued at this point. You don't want to give them a knockout punch with 10 miles to go. I've personally found that the best strategy to avoid hitting the wall is to go up and down the bridges conservatively and use the flat stretches of the course to settle into your goal pace. Tip number 6, Show the crowd some love. Today may be your big day, but let's give credit where credit is due. It's a Sunday morning, it's usually pretty chilly outside, it's a terrible day for commuters because of road closures, and still, thousands upon thousands of families, friends, children, loved ones, and absolute strangers wake up early and stand for hours on end to see you do your thing. And they deserve some love too. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. There's probably a ton of conventional wisdom out there that says, don't waste energy high-fiving people or interacting with the crowds. And maybe if you're truly elite and this is just a race to you, maybe there is a grain of wisdom in there. But let's be real. We're out here to have fun. This is unlike any other marathon in the world. Give a kid a high five every couple of miles. Okay, maybe don't give any high fives this year because of COVID, but don't be afraid to reciprocate in your own way. If anything, it'll give you a boost of energy that'll help you out. Bonus tip, if you do have family or friends cheering you on along the course and they're not sure where they should be, there is a way they can see you twice and during the hardest part of the race where you will probably need them most. That would be along 1st Avenue around 100th Street where the crowds start to thin out, and then 5th Avenue and 100th Street, which is right smack in the middle of mile 24, which is, in my opinion, the hardest mile of the course and where my family is always stationed. Tip number 7, allow yourself to be emotional, especially at the finish. This is so important, guys. You've worked really hard, probably made a bunch of sacrifices to get here, and even though this may not be the end of your running journey, this is the culmination of a lot. And in life, we're afforded way too few opportunities to let our guard down and open everything we've got bottled up inside and let it pour out of us. I'm not saying it's definitely going to be tears of joy, but it is very hard to not get emotional when you enter Central Park for the home stretch toward the finish line. No matter what the deal is with my time goal at this point, I always make a point to stop looking at my watch, soak in the moment, and let whatever happens happen. Not only does it feel great, but since everyone's wrapped up in their own finish, no one will notice your emotions at all. And that very intimate personal moment definitely won't end up being photographed or plastered all over the city next year, I promise you. Obviously, I'm just kidding. There will be photographers at the finish line. No guarantee your picture will end up on a bus, but allowing yourself to be emotional as you cross the finish line does increase your chances of walking away with a really awesome memento. Last but not least, tip number 8. Reflect on your experience in the form of a journal. Not necessarily in the form of a social media post, but maybe something a little more personal and private, something that's just for you. Of course, this should come after your post-race celebrations, which, bonus tip, you are absolutely entitled to wear your medal the rest of the day. Definitely salute any other medal wearers that you see. Definitely splurge on your favorite restaurant, have a beer, have a milkshake, whatever speaks to you. But after all that happens, I find one of the best ways to avoid post-marathon depression, which sounds like a made-up thing, but it is a real thing, is to jot down your experience. Not just how the race went from a performance standpoint, but more importantly from a life experience standpoint. Write about those people you met and the conversations you had at the start village. Write about any of those memorable interactions you had with spectators, any moments where you were helped by another runner or you helped another runner. Describe the toughest moment of your race, the things that got you through it. And last but not least, paint a picture, not literally, figuratively, but you can do it literally if you want, of what that moment of crossing the finish line meant to you and how you feel knowing that you accomplished this extraordinary thing that you set out to do. This exercise is kind of like something I did in school a handful of times. We'd write a letter to our future selves, mail it in an envelope with a to-be-delivered date a year or two in the future. And in a way, that document becomes this really precious personal artifact. This is a similar idea, but if you ever hit a rough patch in your life later on, reading about a time where you persevered and did something like run a marathon can serve as a really strong reminder that you are awesome. And with that, for those who are running New York City this year, I wish you the very best of luck. I'll be right out there with you, cheering you on. If you have any last minute questions about the New York City Marathon or you want to connect in the Start Village, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm going to be in Blue Wave 1 Corral A this year, so you can find me around the Blue Village. And even if we don't meet up, I would love to hear all about your experiences after the race. Until then, stay tuned for more videos. Catch me on RunnerClick Pro, and happy running.